So, as you see there, most translations have the Jews saying to Jesus, "You claim to be God," with capital G there. As a result, many misuse verses like this to advance what I term the Jesus is God movement. For example, you see this quote from the noted New Testament Greek scholar Bill Mounds on his website. The Jewish response shows clearly that Jesus was making a claim to be God, the God, Yahweh. There is no question that Jesus and his followers claimed that Jesus was God. The problem with this is that Judaism, then and now, would never have accused anyone from actually claiming to be the God, or as good doctor says, Yahweh. And some well known modern day Trinitarian scholars actually would agree with us that Jesus never claimed to be the God. So you have the noted British Methodist minister C.K. Barrett. It's simply intolerable that Jesus should be made to say, "I am God, the supreme God of the Old Testament, and being God, I do as I am told. And I am God, and I am here because someone sent me." Jesus' ego eimi statement is not a claim to divinity. And then you have others like the Anglican cleric and scholar R.T. France. I think he was right to note that this sort of talk as a public relations exercise would have been a guaranteed disaster. So the question still remains, though. So, what really did the Jews say Jesus was claiming to be? The first thing to note is that Jesus' real conflict with the Jews throughout the Gospel of John did not concern a supposed abandonment of Jewish monotheism, as you see here, Dr. James McGrath has noted. And he says, rather, the issue is whether Jesus is an agent carrying out God's will and purposes, or a blasphemer who is seeking glory and power for himself in a manner that detracts from the glory due to the only God. In other words, he's not saying he's basically another God, but whether or not this lowly Jesus from this little town called Nazareth was just another upstart, one of a number of messianic pretenders, glory seekers, to appear on the scene at that time. So the Jews full well knew that God could and did appoint personal agents who represented the one God of Israel, Yahweh, with his full authority or his name. And we see this throughout the Old Testament. So Moses is called God or given the title God at least twice, Exodus 4 and Exodus 7. You have the judges called gods in Exodus 22, verse 8, and then the affirmation Psalm 82. So the real Jewish charge in John chapter 10 is that Jesus, a so-called mere man, is really an illegitimate agent of that one God who is the Father. He's making claims about himself or making himself a little g God, not capital G God. In other words, Jesus is claiming a legitimate agency that comes from the one God, like the affirmation Moses and the judges of Israel. And this is something that the Jews simply could not or did not accept. The context in John 10 shows that this fact about the translations here. So if you read there in verse 34, Jesus himself uses Psalm 82:6 as his own proof text, if you will, for the Jewish claim when he asks them, "Is it not written in your law, I said you are gods?" And then verse 36, talking about his agency being sent. And then verse 37, "If I am not doing the works of my Father, then do not believe me." He does as the Father does. The agent does as the principle that sent him told him to do. And again, he sort of repeats it in verse 38 in a different way. He says, "The Father is in me, I am in the Father." These are all very well known agency principle statements, by the way, that you can find in any rabbinic commentary, encyclopedia of the Jewish religion. The main point of the Jewish law of agency is expressing the dictum: a person's agent is regarded as the person himself, and then they give some rabbinic references there. Therefore, any act committed by a duly appointed agent is regarded as having been committed by the principle. So this principle appears throughout the Gospels. In Mark 9:37, whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me. Matthew 10:40, whoever welcomes you welcomes me. Whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. There's that sent word again, which is a commissioning word. So in addition to the fact that John 10:33 should really be little g God translation, is supported by some well-known Trinitarian scholars. We have here a translator's handbook on the Gospel of John, purely on the basis of the Greek text. Therefore, it is possible to translate John 10 as a God instead of capital G God, as the New English Bible rather than capital G God. The New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology. The reason why judges are called gods in Psalm 82 is that they have the office of administering God's judgment as sons of the Most High. In context of the psalm, the men in question have failed to do this in trying to arrest Jesus and in disregarding the testimony of his works in John 10. They were judging unjustly like the judges in Psalm 82. On the other hand, Jesus fulfilled the role of a true judge as a God, little g, Son of the Most High. So, one last thing to note, the translations add the word a or a mere to the Greek word anthropos, man, and God is just theos. These words do not appear with the Greek article, yet, the translators, at their own discretion, do add words here to make it clear that they're saying, you're just any man, any type of man, sort of thing. And some even throw in, like the NIV, a mere man, if you. Regardless of these facts, by the way, the Jews sadly denied the claims of Jesus until the end, as we know. For example, in John 19, verse 7, the Jewish leaders saying to Pilate, we have a law, and according to our law, Jesus, he ought to die because he made himself Son of God. So for most Jews, Jesus remained just another usurper to the unique authority that would have been his by birthright alone, as that promised Messiah, the King of the Jews. And the false charges from the Jews in places like John 10 simply added fuel to their case, the death penalty that eventually came